Are we live?
Yes, we are.
All right, we'll call the meeting of the Old Town Laverne Business Improvement District to order for November 2nd, 2020. Natalie, would you call the roll?
Yes. Chairperson Walters.
Here.
Mr. Gendro.
Here.
Ms. Stark. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Run. Here.
And looks like Matt is not here. Eric, are we still expecting Craig Hosell?
I did send him the invite. I didn't have a chance to talk to him. So he had the invite to join the meeting today, as did Leah. They have not logged in yet.
Well, let's hold off on talking about Cool Cruise and Cruise in Laverne, see if he shows up. We've got the minutes from October. Do we have a motion to approve those?
I motion to approve the minutes from October.
The second?
A second.
Mickey and Jason, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Eric, the cell tower.
Yeah, so first of all, before we get too far into this, actually, I'm adding Leah and Matt right now.
Okay.
I did want to point out that the board did receive one public comment from Jackson Salinas, who commented on several items on the agenda, including this item. I'm just going to tell you the ones that he commented on, which was the Verizon Tower, 4B, 5A, which was D Street closure, 6B, which is the university report, and 6, I'm sorry, that should have been 7. That's a mistake. Under public comment, general public comment, he also commented. Any of these items that the board wishes me to expand upon, please let me know. On Verizon, as you know, that the city had approved a Verizon tower to be located there behind Monero Square, which was going to be designed as a clock tower with the Old Town logo on it instead of a working clock. Verizon was in plan check and actually were about ready to pull permits when they notified us that they were backing out of the project. As a corporation, they were reevaluating all of their in-progress sites because of COVID and the costs associated to that and their staffing levels, I suppose. They were reassessing their locations and felt that this was not a required site for them, and so they are withdrawing. However, they are in talks with another company who builds cell towers basically to then lease those out to carriers. So it's not a carrier that constructs it, but it's a company that does it and hopes to have other carriers that would lease from them. They obviously would have to have some kind of commitment by some of those carriers to locate here for them to move forward with the cost of constructing the tower, but those talks are ongoing. So it doesn't mean that there won't be a tower, but right now I would say it's probably more than likely that there won't be as we move forward at this time. The good news is that the improvements at Monero Square can still move forward with or without the tower. So the city's still moving forward with getting all the appropriate drawings, the civil drawings, the utility drawings completed, so that way we can go after bid to construct the improvements in the permanent stage there at Monero. So we're still moving forward with that project. If this other company comes along and wants to continue the permits for the tower, they're going to be able to do so for about a year, and then those expire.
So if we move forward on the stage and other improvements, and they do decide to move forward, that won't create any issues, things that haven't been done?
The only issues will be they'll be tearing up new stuff, right? And they're going to have to fix it and replace it. So that'll be costs associated to them. So, but like the undergrounding, originally we were hoping that they would go in first, put all their undergrounding in, then we would do all of our improvements afterwards. So the timing might be backwards now, but that cost is put back on them to repair or replace the parts that were damaged.
Any questions on that?
No.
If not, sorry to, well, I didn't really have strong feelings one way or the other about the cell tower, but it'd be nice to get moving on the other improvements.
When is construction starting for the square for renovations?
I don't have a date yet. Again, we're still trying to get all the civil drawings that are needed. We have the design of the square laid out, but that's like the the 10%, if you will, and we need more like a 90% to go out to bid to contractors to actually give us a real estimate on building it out. So we're in that process now. Once we do an RFP, I'll let you know. Usually those are out for about 30 days to see what kind of responses we get from actual contractors to do the work.
Okay.
If nothing else on that, I think it'd make most sense to talk about Cruise and Laverne first before next year's Cool Cruise. Craig, welcome to the meeting.
How are you?
Eric, you want to start off with any changes expected for the ability to have the event?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any potential changes to the state order or LA County order that would allow the event to occur in November as we had hoped.
Right?
I thought Mayor Hepburn was going to inquire with his sources at the county and have an update for this meeting as to a little bit more information on the inside. Did that not happen?
He hasn't talked to me about it, no.
Craig, do you have any new insights?
Not at all, unless we call it a peaceful protest against the gas tax. The health department has said no, that they're under the government or, the state of California's ruling, if you will. And, if Disneyland is not going to open until next summer, we're all in a world of hurt as far as events go. I keep trying to convince the county health department that it's not a congregated event. Normally the people are spread out and they're walking like in a mall or on a sidewalk somewhere, but they classify it as an event. And that's the struggle right now.
Right. Mickey, do you want to talk any at this time? Because these are intertwined with the holiday open house.
Well, I was talking to Eric the other day about that, and it appears that we will not be able to have it, per the county. So.
And the date for that was going to be December.
It's always the first Saturday in December.
Yeah.
So that would be the 5th of December.
Right.
And, I don't think much is going to change per the county anyways between now and then. So I think it's just best maybe those dollars that we would spend for that, is maybe try to spend on advertising to get people to, eat downtown, shop downtown, use businesses downtown, that kind of thing.
Chris?
Is there any more up here? We're having discussions about revisiting ideas after tomorrow, to be fair. The world might change tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whenever we know. I think we all realize that if it's one way, we're going to stay in the position we're in. If it's the other way, I think we're going to have some more freedoms in our lives. I don't know if we're beholden to the state. In California, it's pretty strict, but is it worth revisiting this after the election so that we can maybe have a better feel? Because this no dine in is going to rip a hole in the economy of California continuously, because what's happening in Chicago, I have a friend who runs a restaurant there. There is no way to eat outside. It's too cold. They can't modify their businesses. Same in New York City. We're of the luxurious situation of having California, but we're pampered here. And when it gets to 60 and 50 at night, people won't even order a steak outside. So we're in desperate straits trying to scramble to figure out how we're going to stay open that way. I just think there'll be a feeling after the election that we need to move forward one way or the other. And if it's the one way, I think we'll be more apt to see some movement. What do you guys think?
I agree with you, Chris. I think tomorrow's going to tell a lot. I was talking to some people over the weekend, and they're talking here in California, everything. And I was sitting with people from both sides, not, one or the other. Everybody had the same consensus that up until tomorrow, LA County is staying in purple for a while. And we're really hoping that no matter what happens tomorrow, once the election is over, that possibly some of the lifts can be challenged a little bit more. So we may have to come back and revisit a couple of things, because if LA County can finally challenge some of the stuff, because we're on the outside edges of all of this, possibly by city to city, we would be able to open some of our stuff up, because otherwise we're subjected to what's happening in downtown. And that's going to stay that way. But I do think the election may change some things, because everybody's sitting on the fence.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it might not be a bad idea to possibly revisit, maybe even next Monday, to see kind of what is the feel after the election. Because maybe the holiday stroll could happen in a more moderate type way. I don't know if we can do what we normally do where the kids can sit with Santa Claus, but maybe we could still have carolers walking or something to a more smaller scale, where we could still do some small things that are a little more creative here. So,
And you know what really irritates me is that there are hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, but there's a lot of car shows every weekend in both counties, Orange County and LA County, all over the place. And I mean, Riverside has been having a car show with 1,500 cars, and the only thing all of these events, all these car shows are on private property. And I don't know if the city just doesn't get involved with it, or if they don't have any jurisdiction on private property, but they're restaurant parking lots, they're shopping center parking lots. I mean, every weekend, every Saturday morning down in Huntington Beach at a donut shop, they get 200 cars in their parking lot, and they arrive at 4:30 in the morning and leave at 7:30 in the morning.
Greg, let me ask you a question. Are they organized, or are they just unofficial people just show up?
Both. The one in Huntington Beach is unorganized. There's nobody that heads it up. It's been going for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Where a couple guys started going to the donut shop to have donuts, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, it's like, out of the hundreds of people that are walking the event, they're not, it's so spread out that they're not congregating. And, and all the other ones, I went to one at Canyon RV Park in right off the 91 freeway. At one end of the park, they had a car show with a couple hundred cars, and at the other end of the campground, they had a van show, and both were, very successful. And I asked the owner of the campground, I said, how did you get away with this? And she said, both promoters said that, everything would be cool, and there'd be, distancing and this and that and whatever. And, there wasn't. I sat with my car club, and we had, 25, 30 members there, and, sat around all day and talked.
Well, I think the big difference here is we're talking about public property, which requires city approvals. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, unless the county backs off and the state backs off. There's no harm in monitoring it. If things open up, look like it's going to change, we can certainly call a meeting real quick to make some changes. But I don't know, Eric, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, even though there are the county supervisors, there's some seats up for that position, the county still has to fall in line with the state's order, the color tier per county. And so unless there's change at the state level that would remove that color tiered program, I don't think it really matters what happens with the local elections, because LA County is still going to be under purple as according to the state, and events aren't allowed under purple, red, or orange. Really, it's really down to yellow. So LA County is far from reaching yellow, and definitely when it takes 2 weeks of each tier to get to the next one. So even if everything went right, we wouldn't be in a place where under the state order that the city could have the holiday stroll at the beginning of December.
Eric, is there any word at all that possibly eventually each city could be able to challenge, like the county ordinance, to go at least do 25% inside dining, things like that? Is there anything at all?
Again, it would take probably a coalition of cities to file a lawsuit against the state to modify the color tier, the reopening plan that the governor's laid out. I know there's been some individual cities that have talked about it, maybe a county or two. I don't believe LA County's planning to challenge the state's order. And so whether some cities are able to, but the other, that changes still don't happen overnight. Even if there was changes in the election tomorrow, things have to be put in place and agendized and voted on, to where even for the holiday stroll specifically, that's all I'm talking about. I just don't see a path forward where there could be any potential change in any of the rules that would allow us to have such an event.
Is it possible, like during that weekend, to even, since we are doing outside dining, even have a feel of holiday where we could have maybe some carolers or something just strolling around? If there was only 2 or 3 and they were wearing masks, of course, we're not allowed to. Never mind.
Well, I will tell you
I'm
that
singing here.
we still plan on decorating Old Town for the holidays, right? And people, it's a public area and public street. So if somebody wished to stand on the corner and sing, there's nothing the city could do about it to tell them that they're not allowed to sing on the corner. It's still a public space. I think the difference is this group here organizing something, paying somebody to do something is different from that just naturally occurring.
Okay, so there's a fine line, is what you're saying, between.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
No, we went down to Newport yesterday and had lunch on Balboa Island. And the restaurant there was open inside, I assume 25%. And they had crammed tables on the sidewalk in front of all the neighboring businesses that wasn't bothering. And it was busy. There were lots of people on the street, sidewalks, not that much different than you'd have at a car show. But, I just don't see how we're going to do anything until those above us move forward at this point. But it doesn't mean that the individual businesses and even through our association, we can't be working, like Mickey was saying, in promotion for the businesses and do some things that are, quote, unofficial, but not technically an event. Coordinated
We had an interesting scenario happen. I was going to bring this up sometime. Might as well bring it up now. The health department came into Chase's because of a customer who alerted them that we were not following state mandated 6-foot distancing at the tables, etc. The gentleman came in, observed us first, didn't announce himself, and then approached Dory, the manager, and basically said, "Hey, you guys are in good shape. You're following protocol. I see one thing I want you to change, and that is I want all your dishwashers to have masks on and shields like the servers. So a mask and then a shield." And as the conversation progressed, this particular inspector gave Dory a lot of hope in that the health department is lightening their approach to the COVID requirements in a way that promotes business. In other words, there are people who are very, have obviously maybe lost a loved one, know somebody who has, they're concerned, they're out and about, they want to report violation, but they're getting a lot of stuff that's really ticky-tack, and the health department is turning their head. So he said, "Look, we got to come back in a couple of days. I want to see your dishwashers having shields on." And, and she said, "Okay." Sure enough, 4 or 5 days later, he comes walking back in and said, "Hey, great job. Thanks very much. Keep it up. I'm proud you guys keep doing the right thing," and walked out. I mean, that's a good sign to me that somebody inside the bureaucracy is realizing businesses need to keep going in some way. And that's why I think the car show is such a perfect first thing to do. and let's let the authorities come in and say, what are you violating? Okay, you didn't have a gathering and award some awards where people are standing next together. They walked around and saw some cars. What violation occurred? If you're socially distancing and you're wearing masks, that's what's happening on D Street every day at dinner hour. So I would say go ahead and do it, not sanctioned by this organization, but maybe the association, and just have the car show and find out what happens. What are they going to do? Eric, what's the city going to do?
Well, the car show requires street closures and council approval. So you can't just have the car show on a public street and park and close it through traffic, right? So if the cars were parked in normal parking spaces that are normally there, and like as Craig was mentioning in other cities where they needed a donut shop, you know, that is the question, is what would happen. The city wouldn't be responsible for anything. But in this case, in our normal car show operation, the city actually is responsible for approving street closures, and that's not going to happen.
So the only way to do it, Craig, I guess, is to find a private owner who's willing to take the risk in Laverne and do it there. But I don't know a piece of land or property that would work. Jason.
And it defeats the whole purpose. I mean, my job is to bring a ton of people to the downtown area to buy and eat in, you know, your stores and restaurants down there. So, you know, it's just a tough deal. But back to Eric, you know, in the sense that, you know, if the city didn't have, I mean, it's like, who's going to tell, I guess? And if they told, what violation, you know, would they come back at on a you know, on a day that, you know, have to be out there, you know, canvassing the thing. And you know, even if you look at some of these baseball and football games, I mean, yeah, the people are spread out, but I mean, they're not all social distancing if they're in a group.
The way I interpret what Eric was saying was, if a bunch of car guys show up at 6 a.m. and park in all the spaces, and people don't block the street, city, you know, and they're legally parked, there's really nothing the city would do about it. But city can't sanction something that involves blocking the street and doing that portion.
And for safety reasons, you know, we'd need the streets blocked so that somebody didn't get hit by a passerby looking at cars and then hits a pedestrian in the middle of the street, you know, walking the street.
Well, do we want to, I personally don't see how the cruise in Laverne is going to happen in a little over 3 weeks. But if we want to kind of judge how things go after this week's events, and you know, be ready to call an extra meeting, we can do that. What's the consensus?
I think we should see. I mean, if it looks like we have something to discuss after tomorrow, or even by Wednesday or Thursday, we call a meeting and say, hey, some things sound like they may be changing. Can we get ourselves ready in case it changes? Because
Eric,
there'll be a feel.
Eric, what would be the last point that the council could approve it?
Well, they have a meeting tonight, so obviously it would be 2 weeks from today.
So next Monday, well, it have to be
16th.
done by the a week and a half.
So technically our reports to go to the council, the agenda gets released like Tuesday or Wednesday, and our reports are due in by a week from today, Monday. So
What do you guys want to do?
So that would be the 16th of November, Eric?
that'd be the meeting date, but again, we basically have to know that we are going forward with it to the council by Monday, a week from today, the 9th.
Okay.
I really don't see things changing in the next 2 weeks here. I don't think government is going to be fast enough to implement any change. You know, just not going to happen. I think we're being hopeful, but I think we're just kicking the can down the road.
For this event, I would agree. Chris?
Yeah, I'm trying real hard for Craig and the car shows and Laverne to be a maverick in this thing. Mickey, can I ask, is your daughter seeing a spike in COVID like they say is all around everywhere at the hospital?
You know what? She just worked the last 3 nights, so I haven't talked to her in 3 days, really. But before that, there was a little spike, but I think there was 18 patients. It had gone down to like 13, and then they had 18. But I don't know, like the last week, roughly.
All right. Any other comments? Any other comments on this? Cruz and Laverne?
So that will mean that 2020, we've had no car shows, and 2021 will be the Easter, April 3rd, hopefully car show.
And Eric, do you want to talk at all about that?
No, just that I would say that it's, I have it on our calendar as to be determined, and just like everything else these days, we have to play it, day by day to see how we can move forward and cross our fingers and hope that come, February, March time frame, we have the green light to move forward with that event.
Okay. Any other comments on this? I would say if, we'll monitor it. And if something drastically changes in 3 days, then we can convene a meeting pretty quick. But otherwise, I don't think we need to schedule something.
And if in all of our in the city scheduling, or, don't say that the event was canceled, say that it was rescheduled to next April, because from a standpoint of all the exhibitors and vendors and car show people, they all completely understand when I put out a notice and I say the event's been rescheduled because of COVID or because of the governor's, restrictions. They all understand. A lot of events have canceled and postponed and whatever. So, I just keep pushing, like somebody just said, we just keep pushing the can down the road and rescheduling it. Because we're hopeful. We really are. I mean, we want to have car shows back in Laverne and have them successful.
Got to happen some point. All right. Well, Craig, thank you again for your persistence, and hopefully there will be something different ahead. Let's move on. It kind of rolls into a similar conversation. 5A D Street closure.
Thanks, Craig. Yes. So this is just obviously our long-standing now item on the agenda to just discuss the status of the D Street closure. And since our last meeting, at staff level, recognizing that the colder weather, the rain weather, the current setup downtown, even the winds that we had last week did damage to, I know exactly had a little bit of damage or knocked down umbrellas and tents, and same with Lordsburg had the same. That the weather is going to basically require some changes to the setup in D Street if it's to continue, just because those easy ups aren't really made for the inclement weather. So as a staff level, we engaged a commercial tent company to see what it would take to basically tent over the areas where there are tents today on D Street, just to get a cost or a feel for how much that cost would be. Not that the city would be expecting that the city would be paying for all of it, but maybe some of it for if the council wished to go that route, but that the merchants would also be responsible for paying, or the ones that were participating, right, that were utilizing space. It's pretty expensive. Basically, it's around $15,000 a month. And so that's pretty much close to your annual budget in the dues that you collect without the events that are occurring. So
Per month.
That's with the heaters and the refill of the propane, and then the weekly inspection of the tie downs, because they're all commercial grade. They've got all the certificates, they're engineered. It's all that stuff that allows the 2 walls and the big heaters and all the stuff that's probably going to need it. But the expense is pretty high to where I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending that you go down that road. I would say that provided that, you know, the board is still in favor of continuing the closure, that the individual restaurants, I know that, so staff did provide the board with the letter that was sent out to all the businesses. You business owners should have received that back.
Great letter.
And the fire marshal has indicated that she's received several inquiries from the businesses on D Street about what they need to do with their individual setups to allow for heaters or walls or whatever they're looking to do. So that's the good news, is that they're already in contact with the fire marshal to understand what those requirements are going to be. And so my recommendation at this point, we've investigated doing one big tent to try to accommodate everybody. It's not financially feasible, I don't think, to where we kind of leave it to the individual businesses to continue their operation and do whatever they need to do to modify their setup to appease the fire department and the use of heaters and or walls. So that's my recommendation, but I wanted to let you know that we did investigate it, but it was pretty high.
Is there going to be some kind of, I don't know if I want to call it a deadline, but something that if the restaurants, you know, don't do something to prepare for the weather, that we just open the street? Because again, my concern is if they don't, which I'm sure they're going to, but if they don't, there's no sense having the street closed and nobody sitting outside and nobody being able to park. And so what's the plan for that?
Well, there isn't one. What I would say is if this board wishes to come to some agreement on how that should work, we could present that to the council and see if they concur. But because it is a street closure, so the city council would have to make the ultimate decision. But if this board wanted to come up with some kind of criteria or you know, timeline of, you know, only 50% of the businesses, however you want to work it, where that's when the street would reopen. At some point, the street needs to reopen, right? And right now, we're taking on a month-by-month basis. And so far, with the nicer weather, it hasn't been an issue in terms of wondering if people were going to utilize the space. But going forward, I agree with you, Mickey, that some of them might not. And so when do you make that decision to reopen the street? Because even the businesses that are part of it today, they're utilizing the drive lane. So even if they were closed in to just occupy the parking spaces in front of their space, that's about maybe a third of a reduction of their outdoor seating capacity, the ones that still want to participate, right? And so if they're moving forward today with bigger commercial tents to satisfy the fire department, they're probably planning to occupy that entire space. And so changing on them after them renting a tent for just their space might be problematic too. So it might be important today to kind of identify that so everybody knows when the city might consider reopening D Street.
Yeah, you know, this could be a real nightmare. The weather forecast, I was just checking again for this Sunday, is 60 degrees and they're still back and forth, maybe rain. So this could be happening very quickly. You know, and it could be like usual in the winter time, late fall, winter, where it's up and down. We could have 80 degrees one week and 50 and rain the next, and you can't open and close like that. Another concern is if somebody goes to the expense and puts in a tent, but they're the only one, you know, you're not going to block the street, I wouldn't think, for just one. Is there any way we could
do a survey? Well,
or I'm thinking maybe, Eric, could we set up kind of a subcommittee, get a couple of council members and staff and a couple of our people to be able to be a little bit more nimble with this and come up with some kind of a plan for what triggers are to do different things? Otherwise, you know, if we have to do month by month, we could be 3-4 weeks behind the curve on this.
Eric, has Lordsburg or Village Inn talked to you about, or explain their intentions of showing up their tenting for winter?
Again, many of them have talked to Jessica, our deputy fire marshal, but not directly to me. So I don't know who she's spoken to specifically. I could talk to her and find out, but
I think if we knew, we did a survey, Mickey, of, you know, Mike at Lordsburg and Village Inn, those are the two big ones, right? And Arson, I guess, at House of Wings, and then Cafe Wang, is your intentions to secure your tents for winter and, you know, proceed with heaters? 4 of those people would say yes, and they're going to spend money. I think the street stays closed. If none of them are going to do it, I agree with you. I think we open the street and we call a date certain that, you know, we want the street open if there's no one going to sit out there, because you can't sit under an easy up and have a meal in the rain. It's not feasible. We're investing thousands of dollars in a tent on Chase's on Bonita, and heaters, and Jessica's out today to give us for the details. We've gotten all the fire retardant certifications for the blow heaters. I mean, it's a exhausting process to try to do it, but we're taking Chase's seats down to half. No D Street, no exactly patio. We can't put a rain tent there really, and it's going to hurt us badly. But I cringe if I was Village Inn and those guys, if they, you know, don't have a plan right now. And I think we have to base our decision off if they're going to do that or not. Because I agree, let's open up the streets if it's not going to be used.
Well, the thing is, you know, we want everybody to do good. So, I mean, in a perfect world, if we had, you know, a California winter where we didn't have much rain, but, you know, I just think we have to have some kind of plan, because if it's raining and nobody's able to park or eat, that just hurts all of us.
We've been through that before. So, Eric, any thoughts on how we can, you know, come up with something more definitive?
Well, personally, I like Chris's idea of just talking to those 4 owners, because that pretty much makes up almost all the seating down there, and to see what their plans are. I gotta imagine that they've all been in talks with Jessica, but whether or not they're pulling the trigger on renting the tent or not is the big question. And see if maybe they had interest in just occupying the parking spaces with some barriers up that would allow the street to be open, and that way the businesses not operating outside the parking spaces in front of them could be open to parking again. Would
you, in that scenario, Eric, are you considering that there will be parking spaces available in front of, i.e. the donut shop and Mickey's?
Right.
While the tent is the one spot over, blocking just the parking in front of Lordsburg and House of Wings, as an example?
Yeah, they'd have to install some vehicle barricades, right? So either K-rails or something else to provide some kind of physical barrier from a vehicle crushing. And so there's more expenses to that for those businesses too, because the city doesn't have any K-rails like the orange ones. Again, we're renting those on a month-to-month basis to close D Street, to where we can't help to provide that. So that's going to be a cost to that business to provide those barricades or some alternative.
The city wouldn't allow for cones and things like that. It'd have to be a physical hard barrier.
Got to be something more substantial than that.
Wow.
Well, there needs to be a sense of urgency to the folks for this.
Well, I agree. We form a committee. Someone's got to walk around and report back to you, Eric, that this is what their intentions are. If no one's really got a plan and they're just flying by the seat of their pants, one way to get them motivated is saying we're on the docket to decide to open the street up again. They'll say, "What? What do you mean? Wait, time out." You know, they've got to think through this a little better. I don't want to be the voice because I've got a self-contained situation over on, you know, our property, but I agree with Mickey. Let's get them moving for a decision-making process, and before we can, you know, end up in the middle of December with it raining and nothing happened in downtown Laverne and the street closed.
Eric, is it on the agenda tonight?
No.
Well, Craig, do you want to? Can you walk around and act skills individually, or Mickey, do you want to? Someone needs to do it.
I think. Well, we ought to see what's happened with the fire marshal and when's the last time you talked with her, Eric? Last week?
I talk to her every couple of days, so I haven't talked to her about this for maybe 2 weeks, but I'm sure I'll see her today or tomorrow, for sure tomorrow.
I'm happy to, and I've got some time now. October's over. I can spend some time down there. Mickey, you might be interested in that, or somebody else also. But if there's no time frame, uh, I don't see it moving forward very quickly.
Leah, is any of your members mention anything to you about their intentions of what happens in the winter?
I haven't heard any comments specific to tents. I understand they're expecting the street closure to remain until they're allowed to have 50% occupancy. That's the feeling I get. So is there something that you can send me that describes what's required of them for this tent that they're going to need to get?
It's complicated. That's why the last letter that went out was kind of vague and kind of, they need to meet with Jessica individually so that she can walk it out, because it's all site specific too. And this isn't just downtown, right? This is an issue that we have to deal with on Foothill Boulevard as well. And so we're working with them too. But the only letter we specifically sent out so far were to the downtown businesses, because we wanted to cover a couple other items. So really, it's supposed to be kind of a case-by-case basis meeting with Jessica, which is the way she would prefer it anyways.
Yeah.
So she could talk with the owner and look at the space and kind of talk it through with them directly.
Okay.
We just set an appointment with her, and she's coming out today, and had a great conversation on the phone with about some details that we wanted to do. And she told us exactly what we needed to provide her to get approval. So Leah, if you talk to any of those people down there, tell them they need to, if they haven't done it already, they need to get a plan to get this done. And if they don't do that, I'm agreeing that we should open the street up if they're not going to.
Well, but I'm going to go back to this. If we have 2 people that want to do it, is that enough? Somebody's got to make the, council ultimately will make the decision, but some kind of a decision has to be made.
Well, if it's Lordsburg and Village Inn, probably 2's enough. I mean, that's both sides of the street, and but then it begs the question about the barriers against the tents for a partial reopening of the middle of the street. I don't know.
I have a hard time seeing the parking spaces only. I think that's going to create a real hodgepodge down there. Well, why don't we start with see what the status is with the fire marshal and what feedback she's been getting. And I like the idea of surveying everybody. Leah, would you like to be involved, help with that?
Sure. I'm actually sending out a survey this morning as a follow-up to see how the restaurant week went. So I can add a line item, or a text item to that, just to say if you have outdoor dining, make sure you make an appointment with Jessica to discuss what to do for inclement weather. So that would go out to all the restaurants that participated, and a lot of them have outdoor dining.
The ones, Eric, the ones that have canopies now on the street, do they have to register with the city in any way?
They have an encroachment permit already, which lets them utilize that space. So,
right.
So you have a list?
Yeah.
If you send me a list, I'll put together a letter and just let them know that a decision is going to be made in the not super distant future, and we need to know their intentions so we can advocate one way or the other.
Sure, and I'll follow back up with you, Craig, after I talk with Jessica to see who she's been in direct contact with.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments on that?
Look, I think one thing we need to stress is we want everybody to be open as much as possible. So it's not like I'm saying we need to open the street and close the restaurants down at all. I just think everybody needs to be prepared, because we, again, don't want that situation where people aren't sitting outside and the street's closed too. Right. Because we're all in this together, and, there's no people eating downtown. That hurts everybody too. We all depend on each other. So I can certainly talk to Mike. Maybe we should each take one business. I mean, he's right next door, so I can talk to him just to kind of get the feel of what's going on. I don't know if we each want to take one restaurant.
I can take Roberta's if you want me to.
You can talk to Cafe Wong.
And then what about House of Wings?
Arson's never there. We can contact Arson. We deal with him on quite a few things, so I'll have my staff reach out to Arson and talk to him on the phone.
Okay, at least we can.
Now, do you want us to talk to them before we've had the discussion with the fire marshal?
You could do that now. Yeah, that's fine. I just want to give Craig the information, but it doesn't mean that you can't talk to them now.
Okay.
I think the bottom line for them is, number one, are they serious in recognizing it's going to cost them the money to do it? Have they contacted the fire marshal already to start things in motion? And do they understand that if nothing happens, there's a good chance the street will be reopened? Because if they're all under the assumption that the city's not going to do anything until 50% occupancy, that may not be the case. So they need to be aware of the reality here. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about item B, the merchant parking permits, Eric.
Yeah, I just want to let the board know that we're going to suspend the downtown merchant parking permit program just because it doesn't make sense right now to charge it, because everybody could park in those university lots, which is where we've indicated people to park, E and F, and with the university not, Jason will probably talk a little bit more about this later, but the last meeting he said not until February at the earliest will they be back in session. So without the students on campus, there are available parking. And so in order to try to address the issue that we talked about those 90-minute spaces behind Roberta's, for example, and that parking lot being filled by employees all day, if we don't have the merchant parking permit, then everybody has to follow by the 90-minute rules, unless they're parked in the university spaces, which they could park all day for free. So if there's really no incentive to have that program in place. However, once the school does go back in session, we would bring back the merchant parking permit immediately. So that way that would go back into place. But there's really no purpose of us having it extended for 2021, as long as there's available parking for free in those two parking lots.
Well, how do you designate, for example, someone like me? Where can I park?
You could park in the lot on C Street, the university's lot, the new one.
Oh, the one across there?
Yeah.
We can go over there and park?
Yes.
Okay.
Or you could move your car every 90 minutes, or the 3-hour parking on C Street or 3rd further out in front of the university. But I would park in the university's lot since the university's allowed that to happen.
That's after the first of the year, right?
Yeah, so your merchant parking permits, if you have them already, are good through the end of December. And then starting January, but you could park there now if you wish, also. But
okay,
yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? Okay. Anything on the soliciting for an alternate board member?
So that was in the letter that I sent out to the businesses as well. I have not received one contact of any interest. So I'm asking you all to reach out to those people that you think would be interested or make a good alternate for the board, to talk to them directly, because so far after 30 days or about 2 weeks, I haven't received any emails or phone calls of interest about the position.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Anything else, Eric?
No.
Jason?
Status quo at the university. As you know, winter term is pretty much remote. Chances of us going remote for the spring is very likely, just because of the distribution of vaccines. We have had a few cases on campus, not transmissions, but people that brought the virus into campus. So we're keeping people away. So essential personnel is being very limited. We do the best we can with what we have. There has been a few students that have been exposed, but we put them in quarantine. Luckily, they didn't catch it. So we're monitoring. I think our biggest fear is going to be Thanksgiving. People go home, come back, and we'll see what happens from there. But we haven't made an announcement for spring, but we'll likely make an announcement probably here this month. And we'll probably be closed until May,
When does your spring semester start?
February.
All right. Mickey, I saw you sent out something about doing Facebook ads to everybody.
Yes, yes. Chris responded, and I put his ad out.
It
and
works
boosted.
too.
I've had Christina from Third Street Wine sent me an email, I think yesterday, wanting to know some details. So that's what maybe people are getting their ads ready before they send them. So haven't had too much activity on that, but I'll send out another one, and hopefully we'll get some activity. I also made one. Well, I had Taylor make one that, all the places you can eat breakfast in Laverne and brunch. I'm going to do another one for like lunch and dinner, just because to put everybody on one ad, all the restaurants, it's just too much. So there's going to be a few that are, going to mention shopping or eating, and we'll just keep posting those.
How much money have we spent so far on Facebook boosting?
$10.
What?
Can you imagine? I haven't boosted any of the, I only have the one breakfast one, and I haven't boosted that yet, but I'm probably going to boost that maybe on Friday, obviously before the weekend brunch. So just waiting for ads to come in.
Well, and this is perfect because it requires a little bit of effort on the part of the business, and we're here to help. So that's great. Thanks, Mickey.
Mickey, real fast before you, Mickey, will you talk about the Christmas trees and decorations?
Oh, yeah. So we talked last time, I think, about getting maybe 3 smaller trees so it would be easier for the person to decorate. I did find somebody in Laverne that was going to do the tree last year, but she couldn't do it. She can do it this year, and she charges approximately $150 per tree. So if we have 3 trees, that'd be $450. And obviously we may need more lights and a few more decorations. So she was going to work on getting me a cost together for that. So I think probably what we should do is maybe, a little bit bigger tree in the center and 2 smaller ones. It'll make for better pictures for everybody. Plus it won't be so dangerous for somebody to get up and decorate a 14-foot tree. So I have a call into the tree guy. He hasn't called me back, but it shouldn't be a problem to get 3 versus 1.
You thinking like a 10-footer and a couple of 8s or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because a lot of our ornaments are those big balls that are
right
out of scale for the smaller trees. So we need to buy some more stuff. That's good. Okay.
Suggestions or thoughts? Would they rather have just the 1 tree? I mean, she'll do either, but she said 3 smaller ones would be easier than 1 large one.
Try something different.
Okay.
And also, those are scheduled. You're still planning on having those delivered and decorated on the Friday after Thanksgiving, correct?
Correct. The Friday after Thanksgiving.
So just a question for you all. Would you prefer that the city put up the Christmas decorations in Old Town the week of Thanksgiving, so before the trees are up, or the week after?
Week of.
Week of.
I'd like them before too, because we have a late, Thanksgiving's late this year.
Earlier.
So I think
Okay. I will try to coordinate that with Public Works. And Mickey, they might be in touch with you to coordinate further.
Okay, perfect.
Leah, anything from the chamber?
So we are getting ready to kick off Small Business Saturday, which is that Saturday following Thanksgiving. We're also going to follow in line of a lot of the big box stores. So instead of a single day event, we're going to schedule it out through the end of December. We're going to be doing a scavenger hunt. So we're going to ask the retailers and restaurants to think. It's the first promotion that I did when I got here for Small Business Saturday. So trying to drive traffic into the retail so that they can answer their scavenger hunt question. We're doing it as a no charge to participants. The board of directors are going to be purchasing Shop Laverne gift cards as prizes. And there's also a possibility that I'm going to get some sort of aviation experience from Brackett Field as a grand prize. So even something like a 15-minute tour in a Black Hawk.
Cool.
So, I'm so excited about that. So invitations will be going out sometime this week. And you'll also get an invitation to sign up for the Shop Laverne gift card. So it works very similarly to a MasterCard or a Visa card, but it can only be used at Laverne businesses that participate. So you can buy somebody a $50 gift card and they can, get a watch repaired at Mickey's and go have breakfast at Exactly on the same card. So, yeah.
Leah, when do you plan on that going out?
This week.
This week.
What's the early results of Restaurant Week?
I show over 2,500 page views on the website. I've heard good things from everybody. I don't have anything specific. So again, we created the survey last week, and I'm just waiting for the rest of the committee to approve, and I'll hopefully send that out today.
We did 50 Steak Diane sold out on Sunday, and we did over 80 free biscuits at Exactly. So people were asking about it when they came in. So cool.
That's great to hear. Thank you. It seemed like it was really well done. I mean, really well accepted by the community. People kind of liked the idea.
They all want to support right now. A lot of people are in that support mode. They realize businesses are hurting.
Right. So again, I'm hoping the Small Business Saturday is going to, promote that. Buying local gift cards as holiday gifts, shopping local, keeping your dollars in Laverne.
Okay.
Great. Anything, any other comments on things we haven't talked about?
I just looked it up real quick, you guys. Washington State has had 0 deaths COVID the last 2 days in a row, 1 the day before that. California had 10 yesterday, 34 the day before that. The high member got up to 250 a day. So please keep an eye on the main thing, not the cases, 2 things, deaths and the percentage of positives. And remember, the percentage of positives overall has consistently gone down since June 15th. And those are the things to report on, not the number of cases with the number of tests being made. That's strictly out from my daughter's becoming a PA in Portland. She says, Dad, can you remember, it's percentage and the deaths. And the hospitals are not full here. They're not full in Oregon that I know of. And I'm very curious about California. And my friends in Anaheim Memorial still has 3 floors shuttered with no patients on all 3 floors because of the restrictions on elective surgeries. And they have a very small COVID section. And it's very, very unutilized. And nurses and doctors not getting their full hours. So those are the realities that I know. If you listen to the news, it's not that way.
Okay.
The holiday stroll isn't an item on here, but we did talk a little bit about it, and I know we kind of came to the consensus that it wouldn't happen, but is there any way we can change it or reimagine it? We have brought up, I think before, the possibility of doing a decorating contest with the businesses. If we can organize something like that with just some basic criteria, it might be a way to still get people out to see Old Town during the holiday.
One thing too, I think that's a great idea, Matt. Another thing I was thinking about, how could we have Santa downtown, and would people come if, he wasn't sitting down and kids didn't get on his lap, but maybe he was standing and, we had 6 feet markers for, those people. And I don't know. I mean,
what about having Santa sit in that old fire engine so they can't go up to him?
Kids could come stand by the fire engine and not
necessarily stand in front of that fire engine. They'd be 6 feet away from him.
Yeah. That's a great idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if people would come, because I was shocked that even though Halloween was canceled, kind of, that nobody came downtown trick or treating. I still thought there would be people downtown trick or treating. Maybe people wouldn't come. I don't know.
I think if we promote it, they might. And I was actually up in Lake Arrowhead on Saturday night. Downtown Lake Arrowhead Village, they had trick-or-treaters, but they did it in a more constructive way. So they had find the ghost. They had numbered ghosts all through it, and some kind of a scavenger hunt where you had to find the ghosts and follow the ghost markers all the way around. If we did something a little more, like Matt said, a little more where people would still be willing to come down, like if Santa's there, the kids would come out, but we still have to do it safely. That's the hard part about this. Right. Is there's still the criteria of how many people at a time can we have down there near the fire engine. But they did it up at Heritage Park. They managed to get them through Heritage Park. So
the goal with something like the decorating contest is, I mean, people would have, 2-3 weeks to
I think it's a great idea.
Businesses and cast their vote somehow. I don't know how, but.
And then you have the spirit of it, and then you have the fire engine down there. And maybe, Eric, we could find out what the rules were up at Heritage Park, because they opened up that thing and people were there. They came out. They bought their pumpkins. They did all that stuff. So maybe if we just kind of alter it a little bit, it'd still bring in the spirit of the season. So,
Eric, do you know what the requirements were for that event up there at the park?
Well, it wasn't an event. It was simply pumpkin sales. So that's what it was, a pumpkin patch for sales. None of the
so it was foods. Yeah.
None of the normal stuff that usually happens with it was able to happen. There was no car show. There was no animals or petting zoo or craft fair. It was a pumpkin patch, and it was pretty specific. That's what it was supposed to happen. Now, did other people pose for pictures and make it, it kind of, it looks like fall, so people utilized it, but it wasn't a programmed event per se.
Well, okay, Eric, so if we were to do what Matt said, and the businesses just had a decorating contest amongst us, then just one day, the fire engine is out. It's not an event. It's just out for decoration, and it's sitting out there with Santa Claus in it. Would that be considered an event?
That's the part that I need to check on, is the use of the fire department vehicle. But you all can definitely have your decorating contest and decorate your businesses and have that, and do an online competition if you want, or whatever it is, a scavenger hunt. All those things are allowed. Yes.
Okay.
And what would be kind of cool is if we could just take chalk and mark 6 feet spots and have them travel all through downtown. So because there's a lot of people that come for Santa, and that way people would be looking at businesses and looking at the restaurants, and we could be doing the 6 feet distancing.
I think the hard part of what Eric's is going to find out for us is we can't technically have a sanctioned event.
Right. Because as soon as you advertise that date, that event, that creates the crowd, and that's when you get in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to come up with another way to do this where it's not actually an event.
I think that's why Matt's idea works perfectly, because it's not one day or one time. It's over the course of the holiday time, where you might have a deadline of submittals for what you vote for, but it's not a specific time or date that people are expected to show up for.
Right. So
if you want to try to have a Santa event, I think that should be separate. I think doing something like the decorate contest is better than nothing.
Okay, I just have one question. If we wanted Santa down here, and we didn't say anything about it, he just happened to be here 1 or 2 of the days.
If it's part
don't advertise that he's here.
The clean way to do it would be part of a business. If he was at a business, then that's separate.
That's true. Well, I think it's something for us to think about as far as that part of it, but I think we should maybe do like Matt said and have a decorating contest, and that would really help the decorations downtown, because if a lot of the businesses do it, because I know we'll do it, so we'll start it on this side. So
so I think I don't know, we would need some kind of a criteria, and a business should have to say that they're participating, I think, for us to put it out.
Okay.
So Matt, do you want to coordinate that?
Sure. Yeah.
Is there anyone that wants to work with Matt in developing the criteria and promoting that?
And it's a time frame from set X date to X date, and the public, when they come down, looks at the decorations and votes.
Mhm. We have to come up with a way. How do they vote? Do they do it online? How are they going to do that?
Yeah. I'm not sure yet, but yes, that's the
Well,
goal.
Matt, if you need help, you can call me. The only time I will be gone the week of Thanksgiving, but other than that, I'm here.
Okay.
Cool.
Is it something that you guys would want to have running all December, or what do you think?
don't think we should do it the whole time of December. I mean, the contest part we should have a time frame before Christmas where it's cut off, maybe for 2 weeks.
Maybe like the 5th through the 20th or something.
Yeah,
that
something
gives
like that.
them to decorate. Because some people don't like to decorate before Thanksgiving, but that gives them time after Thanksgiving to decorate, you know.
You
Whatever.
just gave us a reason to get started, so I'm okay.
I don't mind decorating, but
I've already started my house. Isn't that sad?
Is there a way I could get like a email list or something for downtown businesses, and once I get something together, I can send it out?
How about this? The city will send it out since we have those all done.
Okay, so I'll send it.
You send it to Natalie, and then she could send it out.
Okay.
Good.
I've got to run. I'm late for another Zoom at 9:30. So miss you guys all. We'll see you
Miss
soon.
you too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Anybody else, anything you'd like to add at this point? If not, we will be adjourned.
Okay.
okay.
All right. Thank you.
Everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.